Hello and welcome, brothers and sisters. I am Blue Whisper, and I'm today's hostess for Planet Pathlings. Today, my topic on magic is cultural origins. And I've been going back and forth with this. There's so much information, and there are so many cultures that actually practice magic. It seems funny to me that we still have a lot of individuals that are very nervous about the very word witch when actually what they're doing is practicing witchcraft in these various cultures. And it's acceptable. It's acceptable for, somebody in China to practice the divination of I Ching. It's become widely acceptable using the healing technique of acupuncture. It's, it's in fortune cookies. Who doesn't open a fortune cookies? But yet it is a form of divination. So I guess I'm going to start with the Chinese culture. I was going to look at the different practices in witchcraft and the different styles because I am an eclectic witch and I pull everything into my practice. But then I decided, I'm going to go with the different cultures and their magic, more specifically, because when we go all the way back, magic only comes from the one source. So I'm going to start with the Chinese right now. The Chinese have given us, I believe they have given us the dragon. Whether that's exactly where it originated from in our practices today or not, that's up for debate. But, in my studies, the Chinese are a very, very ancient people. And when I look at the dragons that they celebrate and they use, the similarities between their dragons and the ones you find on the store shelves today to place upon your altar are strikingly similar. So I like to believe, me personally, I'm still looking, but there's so much more for me to read to continue looking, but I really believe that maybe that's where that had originated from the Eastern cultures. Real quick, I just want to say this, that I have done so many takes, and whatever this one turns out to be like is going to be it. I'm trying to keep it short, and I will get to the true source of magic briefly, so bear with me. I wanted to also mention, which in newer times right now, we do have a religion called Wicca. Most of the members of a Wiccan coven do practice witchcraft, but not all witches go to or belong to a coven. I personally am a solitary. I consider myself eclectic, which means I pull from everywhere and every idea. I seem to lean a little bit towards hoodoo in a way. Historically, and I'm not really going to get into names and everything like that because that would be a totally different topic at one time. But a man named Gerald, who was like the founder of the Wiccan Church during the 1940s, they had gathered over 200 witches from various places in England to, do ritual in sky-clad round fire to try to create a cone of fire in order to keep the Germans out. The Germans did not invade England. They were right there. Their intentions were to do it. They did not invade England. And the ritual took place over several days, and even a couple of people died during this ritual. And those that had attended it said the power, you could feel it so strong that it was very intense. So that's a little bit of that history from over there. And I could go off into all kinds of different directions with this, and the practices in Ireland, the practices in England, and some of those other places, Welsh, Norse. But I want to touch on these few ones that I've been studying most because they seem to just really um, have a lot of value and very ancient too. I think sometimes some of these get skipped over a lot too. Okay, so I covered a little bit of the history of that. Let me cover, um, I want to say something else about this as well too. Different forms of magic, and what we incorporate in our practices are all linked and tied together. We may use tarot cards for divination. We may use pendulum. Um, Definitely the astrology plays a very big part in witchcraft. We, look to the moon and stars a lot. Not just for astrology, but common sense. You look to stars to find your way for for many millennia. A lot of sea captains and everything would look to the sky. And so a lot of things come from that, and they just really tie in together. And I'll show you what I mean. Oh, by the way, even the Chinese had their own Chinese horoscope, so better mention that. In North America, the Native Americans also practiced different spiritual practices, which can also be considered magic. It all ties together. And there were several different tribes, so there were many different ways. But most of them did believe, maybe not in the deities as we know it, but they believed in different spirits of the tree, spirits of the animal. They were really in touch and close to nature and the Great Spirit. And they did worship and do things. They knew about their herbs, they knew about and how to use them. I think of the Indian rain dance that comes to mind when they were in need of rain. Different rituals to see, maybe during a funeral to see, a loved one off to the next life, or transitioning over. Different beliefs that they had. It all just ties together. And then even they look to the moon and stars for guidance. And they had a lot of different things, a lot of celebration, which, I think we do that too. And they were also considered, by the Europeans that came over, they were considered pagans because they did not believe in the traditional Christian church. And that was about them. So the next thing I wanted to kind of talk about is, let's talk about the ancient Egyptians. The ancient Egyptians, they did also practice magic. Most of the magic and spells that they were used were written by the priests in the temples. The Egyptians were a highly advanced, civilized people for their time. And by highly advanced, they're finding things even today when they do digs that are astounding. Not just the fact that they practiced, magic and did rituals and things like that, but some of the things that they had predicted that, there's airplanes, some people believe that they have drawings where they have met aliens or whatever. That's still up for debate. That's still another topic. Not really going to go into that. They were very big on their afterlife. This life was just leading up to the afterlife. And so they practiced and worshipped their gods and had the priests, those who could afford it, would have a spell written for them in a Egyptian Book of the Dead to take with them to the afterlife. Now, this spell book was something that they could read and know that they could get through once they passed over to the afterlife. Sort of like a purgatory that they had to go through. They had tests that they believed they had tests that they had to endure, and this spell would help them, and they could perform this spell just after the transition and while they're crossing over. There was other spell books that were found that has, been studied, that were spells for the everyday civilian of ancient Egypt to help them with whatever daily problems that they were having, and they did practice magic. They also incorporated astrology into everything they did. If you look at their pyramids and the buildings, everything is in perfect alignment with the moon, the sun, and the stars, and the seasons. They had different rituals to ensure that, whatever crops they had would, provide abundance and, wealth. They worshipped animals. Cats were gods. They've never forgotten it, but they did worship their cats and other animals as well. And even the pharaohs could become deities in their own right. So, moving on from this, I know I touched on it, but I'm going to move on from this because I don't want this to get super long again. Coming back this way a little bit, we're going to look at hoodoo. Where I live, you see a lot of practitioners of hoodoo in the Appalachia area of the United States. Appalachian area of the United States. Forgive my speech. It's late at night and I'm not talking right. You see a lot of that, and that is believed to have stemmed from and brought here from the slaves during, the Civil War time and slavery. Voodoo is a practice much like most witches use today. The use of poppets, the use of herbs and healing, and so forth. Voodoo is actually kind of a branch of voodoo or voodoo, which its origins come from Africa. African voodoo is also a religion. There are many different branches to the voodoo religion, so it is also known as a religion. Some of these cultures and practices, including African voodoo, do believe in offering ritual sacrifices, such as a goat or a chicken. I have read and I understand that human sacrifice at one time, and maybe still today in certain parts of the world, is practiced. That's one thing I will not pull into my solitary eclectic witch style. I will not do sacrifice. I'll sacrifice a donut, and that's about it. I will stab the heck out of that donut, but no live animals, no people. But anyway, in some of these places that is believed, and has been over many centuries, many centuries. And so, in recent times, it had been discovered, or thought, the theory is that man has originated from Africa, that the first man and woman of the Homo sapien, I guess I'd call it, Homo sapien class? There's different classes, or whatever. The most ancient bones, the oldest bones known today, were unearthed in Africa. So it is believed that that's where all mankind has come from. So if that's the truth, then all the magic that we know of and all the practices actually came from Africa, right? The ancient Chinese, European, all of it came from Africa. Well, when I got to thinking about it, and this is only my theory, but I like to think magic was here already. I like to believe that magic has always been there. It's always been a part of the universe since the world began. It was only when man came to Earth and discovered it that, we could learn the full potential of our magic and how all these things relate to one another. But magic's always been there. So in my study, I come to the conclusion the true origin of magic always was. Okay, so I think this is probably going to be long enough, probably already longer than what I originally anticipated, but I'm going to stop it right here. So, yeah, keep an eye for next week's videos. And the topic we will discuss on Friday at our weekly wrap-up. Also, look for the links that I'm listing down below. And with that, blessed be.